But it wasn't just the Greeks who thought super-sized creatures were building monster structures. In Ireland, myths of giant builders were also rife. Could it be because real-life giants once walked among us? In Northern Ireland, a strange section of coastline stretches out into the sea towards Scotland. The Giant's Causeway. Just like Mycenae in Greece, it was once thought to be the work of giants. Geologist Kirsten Lemon investigates the bizarrely shaped stones.
The columns themselves are really unusual. To be honest, they actually look man-made. They all fit together, a bit like honeycomb fits together. I suppose people, when they first saw them, thought they can't possibly be natural. Surely these are made by man, and only somebody as big as a giant could have possibly made a rock formation like this.
The huge causeway inspired a giant myth. It tells of Finn McCool, the biggest giant in Ireland, who picks a fight with Scottish giant Benandonner. The giants build a causeway across the sea so they can meet face to face. But when Finn McCool sees that the Scot is far bigger than him, he disguises himself as his own baby. Terrified of how gigantic baby McCool's father must be, Benandonner flees back across the causeway, smashing it to pieces.
The story of the Giant's Causeway is another example of humans trying to make sense of the natural world. You have what clearly looks like a man-made structure, but it's of huge proportions. How do you explain that? It must have been made by a giant.
Today, geologists give us a different explanation for this extraordinary-looking phenomenon. These uniform rocks were made from volcanic lava that cracked into multiple segments as it cooled 60 million years ago.
Of course, now geologists know that we find these practically in every continent in the world.
In the Paleocene epoch, this was a place of intense volcanic activity. Lava flowed into an existing valley and became a river of molten rock. As the lava cooled, it turned into tough basalt. Over time, erosion scoured away the top layer of rock, exposing a walkway of basalt columns that looks like it was made by giants.
Such a strange geological formation that it makes sense that people hundreds of years ago would have needed to have a way of explaining how it came to exist.
The tale of how Finn McCool created the causeway may only be a myth, but is there still more to old legends of Irish giants than meets the eye? Endocrinologist Dr. Marta Corbanic examines the remains of what appears to be a super-sized human.
This is a photograph of Charles Byrne. He was a giant living in the 18th century, growing to a height of 7'7".
Charles Byrne was born in 1761, around 80 kilometers from the Giant's Causeway.
You can see that he has long bones in his legs as well as his arms, a very long torso, and a huge head compared to a normal skull. He had a disease, which we call gigantism, and he had a tumor in his pituitary gland behind the eye, making too much growth hormone.
Charles Byrne died of the complications of gigantism at the age of 22. Could this condition have played a role in creating the myth that giant creatures once lived in Ireland? And could the same condition have existed in ancient Greece, land of the Cyclops? Marta looks for answers. She begins by investigating DNA of other oversized people.
A few years ago, a family was referred to this hospital because two members of that family both had gigantism. One of them actually was very tall, over 2 meters.
Marta analyzes blood samples and isolates the genetic mutation that is behind the family's excessive growth.
It's such a rare disease. Would it be possible that this family of young giants living today could be related to the Irish giant, Charles Byrne?
Marta looks to see if these cases are in fact connected by some kind of giant gene in this part of the world. If so, could other mutant giant genes have existed further afield at the time of the Cyclops myth?
We removed 2 back teeth from the giant skeleton and extracted DNA.
Does Charles Byrne's DNA have the same genetic mutation as the modern family? And if so, is it more than a coincidence? Can Marta find this shared genetic marker that would prove they are distant relations? The results are in.
Without any doubt, the families have the same disease and the same mutation and are related to the giant Charles Byrne.
It turns out that Charles Byrne and the family share a common ancestor from about 60 generations ago.
We found altogether 18 families with exactly the same mutation.
Oversized people here are not one-off cases. They're part of a phenomenon, one that stretches back for centuries.
So this part of Ireland has more giants probably than anywhere else in the world. These tales, these legends, are probably based on real people who suffered from this devastating disease.
Oversized people helped fuel myths of giants living here. Is it possible that the same condition also existed in Greece? And if real people were behind some of these tales, why were the Cyclops considered to be man-eaters?
One of the interesting motifs about giants is frequently they're cannibalistic, or they eat the flesh of men. One of the most famous stories of man-eating giants, and one that gets told to kids today, is Jack and the Beanstalk.
In many different cultures, there are stories of monsters eating people who venture into the wrong place. In Greek mythology, a Cyclops lives inside a cave. He traps Odysseus and his men in his home, eating 2 of them each morning. Did man-eating giants once stalk the earth like in these old folktales?